Hello everybody, it's Lullaby1 and welcome back to my channel for another character analysis video. Today we will be doing an analysis on Starscream. Every great tyrant needs a shadow, a loyal second in command to handle the logistics of cruelty while the leader commands the grand stage. In the Decepticon ranks, that shadow is supposed to belong to Starscream, but Starscream has never been content with just being the shadow. For over 40 years, across dozens of continuities, Starscream has occupied a fascinating, almost unique space in pop culture. He is a character defined entirely by a single burning contradiction, an insatiable desire to rule, paired with a fundamental inability to lead. To a casual observer, he is a joke, a sniveling, cowardly traitor who shoots his commander in the back, fails spectacularly, begs for forgiveness, and repeats the cycle next Saturday morning. But if you look past the high-pitched shrieks and the comical betrayals, you find something far more compelling. Starscream isn't just comic relief. He is a tragic study in ego, trauma, and institutional rot. He is a Shakespearean courtier trapped in an epic sci-fi war. A deeply flawed survivor whose worst enemy isn't Optimus Prime or Megatron, but his own desperate need for validation. We're going to dissect the Air Commander. We're going to look at his origins, his psychological codependency with Megatron, his unique status as a high-ranking military elite, and how his character shifts across different eras, from the beast-like soldier of the live-action films to his peak characterization in Transformers Prime and the Cybertron games, elevating him from a simple cartoon villain to one of the most tragic figures in modern animation. To understand why Starscream is the way he is, we have to look back at what he was before the purple Decepticon insignias were forged. In almost every major continuity, Starscream did not start his life in the gutter. He wasn't a miner or a gladiator like Megatron. He was a scientist, an explorer, or the commander of the Cybertronian Air Guard. He represents the old world, the educated, elite, highborn upper caste of Cybertron. Look at his design, especially in Transformers Prime. He's sleek, razor thin, and literally walks on high heels. His movements are theatrical, almost balletic. He doesn't move like a soldier. He moves like an aristocrat who views physical combat as beneath himself. When the war broke out, why did someone like Starscream join a violent, lower-class uprising led by a bloodthirsty gladiator? The answer is simple. Opportunism masks as ideology. Starscream saw the corruption of the Autobot High Council, sure, but more importantly, he saw an opportunity to ride Megatron's coattails to absolute power. He assumed the brute from the pits of Chaos would need an educated, strategic mind like his own to actually run an empire. He thought he could pull the strings. But Starscream completely miscalculated the sheer terrifying force of personality that is Megatron. Instead of becoming the brilliant advisor to a new regime, Starscream found himself utterly subjugated. This creates the fundamental fracture in his psyche. His ego tells him he is superior to everyone around him because of his intellect, his speed, his noble background. Yet every single day, he is forced to bow down to a monster who rules through raw, unadulterated violence. Starscream doesn't just hate Megatron because he wants his job. He hates Megatron because Megatron is a consistent living reminder that Starscream's supposed superiority means absolutely nothing in the face of brutal force. This brings us to the core dynamic of the Decepticon faction, the deeply toxic, borderline pathological relationship between Megatron and Starscream. In any rational military hierarchy, a subordinate who attempts to assassinate his commanding officer multiple times will be executed on the spot. Yet Megatron keeps Starscream around. Why? And conversely, why does Starscream always come back? Let's take a look at it from Megatron's perspective first. Megatron doesn't keep Starscream alive out of mercy. He keeps him alive as a psychological tool. Starscream is the lightning rod. By keeping a known traitor as his second in command, Megatron sends a message to the rest of the Decepticons saying, "Look at the brilliant Air Commander. Look how powerful, smart, and fast he is. And look how easily I crush him whenever he steps out of line. If he cannot overthrow me, what chance do you have?" Starscream's public humiliations are a necessary theater to maintain Megatron's absolute control over his ranks. But what about Starscream? Why does he endure the physical and psychological torment? Because Starscream is addicted to the structure of the Decepticon Empire. He's terrified of insignificance. When Starscream actually achieves his dreams and gains independence, or when he is exiled, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He discovers that without the Decepticon war machine behind him, he is just a lone jet in a vast, hostile universe. He needs Megatron to define his existence, his identity. He is entirely wrapped up in being the rebellious usurper. If there is no tyrant to overthrow, Starscream has no purpose. This is the definition of a textbook abusive relationship dynamic played out on a cosmic military scale. He returns to the Nemesis not because he loves the cause, but because the boot of Megatron is the only thing that makes him feel like he belongs somewhere in the universe. When we look at the live-action Michael Bay films, Starscream undergoes a radical physical and psychological transformation. Gone is the sleek, talkative, human-like courtier of the cartoons. Instead, the Bayverse presents us with a massive bird of prey silhouette, a hulking triangular powerhouse with a wide chest and animalistic legs. This design change directly mirrors a shift in his characterization. In the Bay movies, Starscream is less of an articulate political schemer and much more of a primal, vicious enforcer. He is a lethal aerial apex predator, slicing through human fighter jets in the skies of Mission City or tearing through Autobots with devastating efficiency. He feels less like a politician who happens to fly, and more like a true military general who embraces the savagery of war. Yet, despite the completely different look and tone, the fundamental tragedy of his ambition remains perfectly intact. His relationship with Megatron is pushed to its absolute, more abusive extreme. In Revenge of the Fallen, when Megatron returns from the dead, his very first instinct is to beat Starscream into the dirt, stepping directly on his chest plate, barking, "I am back." Starscream's defense mechanism here is pure survivalist sympathy. He quickly cowers, muttering about how he only took command in Megatron's absence, because someone had to lead. He had been stripped of his grand, eloquent speech and reduced to a snarl, but his underlying motivation hasn't changed. He still waits for his leader to stumble, openly plotting behind the scenes while maintaining an intermediate facade of loyalty out of sheer terror. His end in Dark of the Moon highlights the fatal flaw of this specific, hyper-aggressive incarnation. Blinded by his own arrogance and raging ego, he is outnumbered and blinded by a human, Sam Witwicky, leading to his explosive demise. The Bayverse stripped away Starscream's elegance, but it proved that no matter the universe, his pride and his inability to see past his own reflection will always be his ultimate undoing. While every era of Transformers has its merits, Transformers Prime is widely considered by fans to be gold standards for Starscream's character development. This series took the comedic elements of his G1 incarnation and grounded them into visceral, painful reality. In Prime, Starscream is given a prolonged arc of isolation when he leaves the Decepticons in Season 2. We see him at his absolute best and his absolute worst. Without Megatron's shadow over him, we see how incredibly competent Starscream can actually be. He is a master tactician when he isn't blinded by panic. He can manipulate the Autobots, slip through security grids, and play multiple factions against each other with flawless precision. We see his scientific background shine through as he handles energon deposits and ancient relics, or cloning himself. But Transformers Prime also shows us his profound loneliness. The tragedy of Starscream and Transformers Prime is that he is entirely incapable of forming genuine connections. He views everything through a lens of leverage and hierarchy. When he creates clones of himself, he doesn't find brotherhood, he finds a mirror of his own backstabbing nature. He ends up executing one of his own clones just to save his skin. Or rather, save his metal. He is trapped in a prison of his own personality. He cannot trust anyone because he knows exactly what he would do in their position. Megatron is resurrected and eventually disbands the Decepticons after experiencing the terror of Unicron's control. Starscream's reaction is telling. He doesn't celebrate his freedom. He is horrified. He begs Megatron to take up the mantle again, and when Megatron refuses and walks away, Starscream is left completely adrift, culminating in him retreating to Darkmount, only to be cornered by the vengeful Predacons. This show ends his arc with not a grand death, but with the ultimate poetic justice, a creature who wanted to rule the world, but left entirely at the mercy of the monsters he tried to exploit. To fully round out his character, we have to look at his portrayal in the High Moon Studio games, War for Cybertron, and Fall of Cybertron. What these games did brilliantly was remind the attendants why Starscream was appointed Air Commander in the first place. In the cartoon shows, Starscream is often used as a punching bag to show how strong a new character is, but in the games, you get to feel his power. Starscream commands the Seekers, an elite aerial strike force of the Decepticons. In the lore of the games, the Seekers are terrifying. They control the skies of Cybertron, and Starscream leads them with ruthless efficiency. He isn't a coward when he's fighting Autobot soldiers. He is a lethal, high-speed predator. The games highlight his political ambition as well. When Megatron falls, Starscream doesn't hesitate. He immediately takes the throne and rebrands the Decepticon Empire in his own image. He builds a massive monuments to himself and shifts the military focus to his own priorities. And here we see the cycle repeat itself in stunning, high definition. Starscream's leadership fails not because his plans are inherently bad, but because his ego demands absolute adulation. He cares more about the trappings of power, the statues, the crowns, the speeches, than the actual hard work of ruling. He wants the glory without the burden. When Megatron returns, the sheer contrast between a vain politician and a battle-hardened warlord is laid bare. Starscream is cast down once more, his brief moments in the sun completely shattered. Like his right side when you see the cutscene. So, who is Starscream? Is he a coward? Yes. Is he a traitor? Absolutely. But he is also entirely human in his flaws. More so than almost any other cybernetic life form on Cybertron. Most Transformers are defined by rigid archetypes. Optimus Prime is the flawless, noble leader. Megatron is the unyielding, iron-willed tyrant. Soundwave is the perfectly loyal spy. They are figures of conviction. But Starscream is a mess. He is insecure, prideful, brilliant, terrified, ambitious, and deeply anxious. He represents the very real, fragile struggle of an individual trying to assert their own worth in an empire designed to crush individuality. We laugh at his failures because they are spectacular, but we sympathize with him because we know what it feels like to want more than what the world has allocated for us. He is the eternal second place, forever reaching for a crown that is just out of his grasp, forever doomed to be swatted down by the giant above him. And yet, no matter how many times he is beaten, broken, or cast out into the void of space, Starscream always rises again, looks at the throne, and utters those infamous delusional words. I, Starscream, am now your leader. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology of Cybertron's most ambitious seeker, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment letting me know your favorite version of Starscream, and I'll see you in the next video. Good night, my lovelies.